You're with Dion at HDpiano, and this is Control by Zoe Wees. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the first verse. So that's how much we're going to be covering in this first part, from the intro all the way through to the end of the first verse. So let's get stuck straight into this song. Now, I'm going to show you through some things going to make your life a little bit easier to get started with. The first thing is the left hand. The left hand pattern doesn't really change a whole lot through this first section. It starts off with C sharp and G sharp, and we're just below middle C. Our next shape is A and E, so we're moving down, keeping the same distance between the notes, but just moving them both down from C sharp and G sharp to A and E. Then the last shape we have is 2 E's, 1 octave apart. So we're keeping the top note from the previous shape and dropping the bottom down to another E. Those three again. C sharp, G sharp, A and E, and then E and E. These are our main three shapes throughout this section. There is a variation, and we'll have a look at that a little bit later. So that's the good news. Part of the good news anyway. The second part of the good news is that the right hand part, for the most part, again, uses this note almost every second note. So this is B. This is just below middle C right here. So we're going back and forth between a note, in this case E, and B. And then D sharp and B. Then C sharp and B. Back to E's. And we stay on that E and B. And we're going to top off this section by playing E and F sharp. And then B. So we got those two notes together. That right hand sequence again, so we're on E for 3, 2, 3, drop down to D sharp, C sharp, back up to E. We've got staying on E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then the pair of notes. That's our right hand sequence. When we add that to the left hand, we're going to come in all together with our first shape. As we play the D sharp in the right hand, we're going to play just the C sharp by itself in the left. As we reach this last E in the measure, we have A by itself in the left hand, and then we've got the E and B, while we hold down these two E's, and we finish off this phrase with our pair of notes at the top. Let's go through that once. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. So that is our intro. Now, one thing to notice there, with playing these two notes together, you may have noticed that sometimes they're not kind of falling exactly at the same time, even when I play them. That's something to experiment with, how you get those two notes to sound like they're hitting at the same time, especially when you're playing them in sequence. One thing to keep in mind is your little finger is a little bit shorter than your fourth finger, so you might need to sort of angle yourself a bit more towards your little finger for those to hit at the same time. Otherwise, it tends to happen the fourth finger hits just before the little finger. So keep that in mind as you're playing those side-by-side notes. So that phrase that we just learned in the intro is also the same phrase for the first half of the verse as well as the last 4 measures of the verse, with one little change in the second time through. So if we're kicking off our verse, it sounds like this: 2, 3, and 4, and. So this is all as we already know. No changes yet. Now we've got one change coming up in this bar. So you may have noticed in the bar where we're in our A shape in our left hand, I was adding in a C sharp underneath 2 of our E's. Before we move on. Now this is a really subtle part in the piano part. If you miss it, it's not really going to matter too much, but we like to focus on the details here at HDpiano. So that's what's going to happen the second time through in the verse. The 4th time through, well, we've got a little change as well, and we're going to have a look at that in just a moment. So we've gone through our main part, once for the intro, twice for the verse, with that little variation there. The third line of the verse, or the third kind of grouping of 4 measures, we still have a similar left hand shape, moving between our C sharp and our A, but then our last shape's a little bit different. We're going to finish off with E and B, but B is at the bottom. So we got B and E, and we're going to get ready to play a G sharp just above that as well. Kind of a full E major chord in second inversion in that left hand. The left hand as well is going to have a bit of a different groove. Starting with our C sharp shape, we're going to have 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's bouncing up from the bottom note to the top note, then back down. Once more. 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Onto our A shape. 1, 2. Head up to the next A. 3, 4. Before we land in our E and B. I'm going to be there for 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just the left hand for those 4 measures. 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on top of this, right hand is shifting away from its home here, and we're now shifting up to G sharp and E. Now this time E is going to be the note that we're playing every second hit. It's our constant. So we're going back and forth between G sharp and E, and then A and E, back to G sharp and E. And we're going to finish off with 2 on F sharp. So it's mostly G sharp, E, then A and E, back to G sharp and E, and finishing off with a couple of the F sharp and E. Let's put that with the left hand. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right. So moving on to the last little section of this first verse, our left hand drops back to the part that we already learned earlier with our 3 main shapes. But the right hand's going to transition its way back into where it started. And we're going to do that by starting with the right hand on G sharp, then B, then E, then B, then E and G sharp, back to the B, and then the D sharp and B. And from there, we're back into our usual pattern that we had a look at the intro and the beginning of this verse. So we just got the 1 bar of a bit of craziness. Again, one more time, just the right hand. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. before we're back to usual. Let's add the left hand to that. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay, so we're now going to do those last 2 sections we looked at about that speed. And then to finish off, I'm going to take you through the whole thing again from start to finish at full speed. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, so one thing left to do is to go through from the intro all the way through that verse one more time at full speed. Full speed, by the way, in this song, if you do want to practice to a metronome, is 114 beats per minute. So you can program that into whatever you use for your metronome. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the verse. And that's it. Great job so far on learning through part 1. If you're on HDpiano, just click on the next lesson to continue. And if you're on YouTube, head over to HDpiano.com for the rest of the song. Do you have a request? Well, visit requests.hdpiano.com and follow us on your favorite socials at HDpiano. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and give us feedback in the comments. My name is Dion, and you're at HDpiano, the home of the hybrid piano lesson.